Hello everyone. A very warm welcome to everyone for this session of building a successful career in cybersecurity. I'm Shruti Gupta. I have been in the training field for more than 5 years now, and I have been in multiple courses like certified ethical hacking, certified hacking and forensic investigation, EC Council certified security analyst, EC Council certified security specialist, EC Council certified incident handler, computer network defender, EC Council certified chief information security officer, certified information system security professional, and so on. I'm a certified instructor from EC Council as well. And before, I have also worked in the Defense Research and Development Organization of India and the Indian Meteorological Department, precisely in security. So, this is about me. Now, today we all are here so that we can understand that how cybersecurity is a more and more growing field and how we all can be very useful, can have a very good career in this field. So this webinar will help you out to understand about cybersecurity and how you can build a good career, a successful career into it. Okay, so let's get started. So here we talk about what is cybersecurity first. Now, cybersecurity is one of the most ever-growing fields, which talks about the different kind of technologies, the tools, the controls, the methods, the processes, which can be helpful to design and create a proper implementation for protection of systems, for assets of all different kinds, network, devices, data, information, people even from cyber attacks. So when I say cyber attacks are basically the different kinds of crime that are going on. Nowadays, you go onto news, you see every day some or the other crime has happened. If I talk about current issues, recently government has put on update that some Chinese people can try to connect to some phishing sites. Basically, they can send you some emails and messages that there is some COVID-19 free test that can be there. So you can click on it and it can actually cause harm to your systems. So that is one of the simplest example and the most current example you will find where a possibility of cyber attack is there, where some kind of crime can happen by clicking on those links, by clicking on those messages. Your systems, your IT assets can really be hampered. And when that happens, your information, your personal information, your organization information can all be leaked out. So that is a very big issue, and that can definitely cause a lot of harm on the personal front and on the organization front. And the organization front, it becomes even higher because a lot of people are included in there. So that is why understanding that how these attacks happen and understanding how we can protect from them becomes a very, very important criteria for everyone actually. Like the Chinese example that I was talking about. So this particular case, everybody, whether you are from IT field or not, will be affected. Okay, so that is why it is very important to understand that cybersecurity has become the hour of the need. The need of the hour. That means everybody needs to understand that. Now, when I talk about cybersecurity, there are three major things we look into it. So, if I have some, let's say, important information, the first thing I would want that nobody should be able to get the particular detail. No unauthorized person, no illegitimate personnel should be able to get this information. So that brings me to the first major element, the first major pillar of cybersecurity, that is confidentiality. Confidentiality simply refers to the idea that no unauthorized person, no illegitimate person, no unauthenticated person should be able to access my resources. Next, another very common important issue is that we have to make sure that nobody can edit my details as well. A very simple example, if somebody is able to change the website data, the organization will suffer losses in terms of the customer aspects. The customer may not be able to understand the data and will not be able to connect to the site. So simplest of things can also be very, very harmful to the organization or even in a personal front. So that brings me to the second very important criteria in cybersecurity, that is integrity. So we have to make sure that we can ensure that a particular data is trustworthy. It is not modified or transformed very easily. Then when I talk about availability, availability refers to the idea that the data should be available to everyone as per their requirement and as per the need of the time. That means, for example, if I am allowed to access the data center at my organization from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., so if I am not able to access it at 4 p.m., that is a breach of availability. But if I am able to access it at, if I'm not able to access it at like 6 p.m., then it is not a breach of availability because my authorized time for 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. only. So that is why availability talks about the idea that the particular information, the particular resource, the asset should be accessible, should be available to the authorized people at all authorized point of time. It should not be that the data is destroyed or it is not accessible. So these three are the most important pillars of cybersecurity. Any field we go in cybersecurity, anywhere you come across, we always do come across these three as the core, most important criteria to understand and implement and design security and availability. Together, they are also referred to as the CIA triad. That is the confidentiality, integrity, availability triad, which together holds cybersecurity in check. Now that we understand the basic idea of cybersecurity, let's see how important it is to our day-to-day life. Now, especially from a career perspective, when I see, you can see here we have a report, or rather, I would say the major highlights of a report given by Cybersecurity Ventures in 2020, which was also published by the Forbes magazine and the Forbes online portal, which talks about that how the cybersecurity jobs, the requirement of people who can understand and who works in cybersecurity is increasing and increasing, and it's on the go. It's go is supposed to be increasing only. It is not any signs of decrease. It is not showing any signs of decrease. So here we talk about, for example, you can see the first point that says that the cybersecurity jobs is expected to grow to 3.5 million by the time we have 2021, which is a huge amount. And these are all unfilled cybersecurity jobs. We do not have enough people out in the market. We do not have enough expertise out in the market right now so that people can actually come in and they can do the job. So there is a lot of requirement with people who do not have the right skills. So that is why if we can generate people who has the right skills, we can generate the right expertise, we can have people well trained in this field, it could be immensely useful for them so that they can go ahead and take these jobs. So this way they will definitely be this will be definitely helpful to them for a career perspective, and it will be helpful for the organizations which do are looking for such talent and they're not able to find it. So this way it could be like win-win situation for both of them. Then we can see here the unemployment rate. It has been 0% for the last 9 years. It was 0% for 8 years in 2019, and in 2020 is no different. It is still 0% in the market, and is expected to be same in the upcoming years, again because of the dearth of expertise we have, the dearth of people who understand cybersecurity we have at the moment. Now, we talk of cybersecurity engineers, those who have the knowledge, who are existing in such field. They have an average 1,40,000 salary dollar per year salary. So you can see in Indian rupee, it's a huge amount, and it's actually one of the highest paying industry throughout. And especially if I talk of IT jobs, it's definitely one of the highest. So you'll find out that this 2019 and 2020 again is no different. Plus nowadays, because of Corona, we know that every company has to switch to online and IT methods. They have not much choice in many cases, and hence they are the market for cybersecurity jobs has shooted up even higher because now everybody needs to include cybersecurity, and hence the pays have also gone higher, so that they'll hire the right talent. Now, India, if I talk about India alone, definitely need 1 million cybersecurity professionals by 2020. So you can think about the world. So in India itself, it's such a huge job available, job market available, and we do need a lot of people who understand it, who are trained into it, who can actually be useful to the companies and can in turn be useful for themselves so that their career can grow. So that is why I can see how the cybersecurity job market is at a boost right now, and we just need more people into it. Now, if I talk about the 10 coolest job in cybersecurity, again, there are immense and large amount of jobs, but these are like the most popular, most coolest jobs that you will find. If I talk from an initial perspective, so we have the first five examples here. So we start with the digital forensic analyst. Now, forensics is an amazing and amazingly interesting and challenging field, which could be really, really helpful in multiple, crime fields, definitely like police and FBI and so on, and can be helpful in companies so that they can deal with issues as and when they happen. So forensic basically talks about that how when an issue has happened, how we can identify that what has gone wrong, how this particular issue has happened, when it has happened. So we can be really helpful to identify all these factors, and thus forensic investigation is one of the most highly growing field, which again is a part of cybersecurity. Then we talk about penetration tester for systems and networks. Now, penetration testing is a very, very highly paid job again and highly respected job where we actually perform a, a ethical hacking process, but from a defensive perspective. So a lot of companies, actually almost every company, do hire penetration testers, which are asked to professionally perform the ethical hacking procedure, the hacking methodology, so that they can help the company identify their weak areas. And accordingly, when weak areas are identified, the company can decide that how to deal with those weak areas. Penetration testers can even give suggestions that how these areas can be dealt with, and the company can decide as per their requirement. So penetration testing can be done for systems and networks. That is where the company internal processes and assets will be checked for. And then we have application pen testers also. Now we know web applications and websites are the most common kind of contact that any company has with the outside world. When I say outside world, it includes clients, it includes partners, it includes contractors and vendors and everyone. So when we can see that the applications are a very important interface between the third party, between the external parties and the company. So we can also see that this is the most common interface where the attackers have an access. Because generally for a website or a web application, there is no filter. Anybody can access. And this anybody includes the attackers as well. So that is why application pen testers is also one of the most sought after requests, where the penetration tester will check on the applications, check on the web applications and interfaces to identify that how the attacker, how any third external party can cause harm to it and thus can cause harm to the organization. What kind of leakage, what kind of modification can be done which can finally harm the company. So application pen tester is again a very, very challenging but at the same time very, very cool job. Then we have SOC analyst, security operations center. Nowadays every organization has seen the need of security and they do establish a good SOC operations center so that smooth functioning of the company can go on. Now whenever a process or functions happen in the company, every company will definitely had a combination of multiple processes and functions. So when we have so many functionalities and processes going on, some issue is bound to happen somewhere or the other. Okay, even if the best of things are provided, we cannot skip any kind of issues we will have. That is something that cannot be avoided. So SOC analyst is the one who helps out the company to be able to take care of the problems and issues as and when they come, so that they can be contributing positively for the smooth going on of the company. That is why again this is one of the most sought after jobs. And then we talk about cyber defender, that is a security engineer. So He is basically the person who will make sure that whatever issues happen within the company, he analyzes those issues and understands them, and hence suggests the company that how we can defend into it. They are the one who will put on things like firewall, IDS, IPS, SIMs, and so on. All these major cybersecurity defense mechanism, they will be the one who will be able to put that and implement it at the right places, and hence help the company with cybersecurity ensure. Okay, next we talk about some more advanced jobs. So after doing the initial ones, definitely we grow in the field and we go towards more advanced levels. So next we talk about hunter or incident responder. Again, a very, very important job for any company, where incident basically refers to any event that may have some kind of negative impact to the company. Now, whenever an event happens, whenever an incident that has an event with a negative impact happens, so definitely the company needs a full proper process so then they can respond to the incident, they can handle the incident, they can do an initial response and then find out the root cause and then deal with that and so on. And an incident responder will be just the right person they will need to perform the appropriate response. Then we talk about security architect. Security architect is the one who designs security solutions for the company, who can justify that what kind of problem needs what kind of solution, and hence they can design the systems accordingly. Then we talk about secure software development manager. Secure software development manager also is the one which actually talks about something which is a slightly newer concept here nowadays. That we talk about secure software development lifecycle, that is SSDLC. We all know that when we develop a software, when we develop a new system, we definitely follow through certain methodologies, certain procedures, certain steps. But earlier it was just steps of development, but now we are trying to integrate security into each part. Because now we say that security is always more efficient and effective when it is built within the system. We have realized this now, that we don't want to add security. We don't want security at the later end to be come up. We want it at every step of the development process, in every process there. So that is why now we come across this new concept of secure system development life cycle, or secure software development life cycle, where whatever software or system we are creating, we are trying to put security as an inherent quality into it, and a secure software development manager can be really, really useful into it. Then we have malware analysis and reverse engineer. Now, when I talk about attacks, malware attacks are one of the most common. So, when I say malware attacks, all these virus, worms, trojans, rootkits that we come across, these are all different kinds of malwares, which are basically malicious codes which tend to perform some kind of undesirable activities in the system. So, since malware is some of the most common kind of attack, we need people who can deal with those also as a very common way. So, people who can deal with the malware, who can reverse engineer them. Reverse engineer refers to the idea. Now, when we get a malware, we generally have that final software with the final core product. So, with the help of reverse engineering techniques, we can identify the exact code out of it. So I'll be able to identify that how this malware, this particular malware is working. That comes under reverse engineer. Once we understand the working of the malware, it is a bit easier to understand that how the malware has affected the system, and it's accordingly deal with the effects. Again, so malware analyst and reverse engineer becomes one of the most important kind of job that we are looking for. And then finally, technical director or CISO. That is again one of the most prestigious jobs we have in cybersecurity, which talks about from a managerial perspective as well. So CISOs are hired in almost all companies now, or given the role on almost all companies now, which is a very important role. So generally, we'll find we have the CEO who ensures that what direction the company goes. We have the CIO who ensures that all IT things are in place. And then there is the CISO who will ensure that both the jobs that they are doing run smoothly. CISO is the one who will ensure that whatever is happening throughout the organization, all the security details of the organization are able to support the processes, are able to support the operations, are able to support the full set of tasks that we need to do in the organization, so be able to achieve the organization objectives and goals. And hence CISO will ensure that security is imbibed into the process, and thus all tasks are running smoothly. So these are the most common, most sought after, and some of the most highly paid jobs in cybersecurity. Okay, so I believe we all are looking out for these. Now, when I talk about EC Council, EC Council is one of the organizations which can be really, really helpful with all their courses, so as to build such a base for knowledge, so as to build such an expertise in people, so that they can be really helpful for people who want to go into this field and who want to go for all these jobs I was just discussing. So you can see EC Council has got a lot of accreditations from some of the most prestigious companies and government and initiatives in the world, and especially in US, since EC Council is a US based organization. So we talk about NICE. NICE is basically the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education. It's basically a partnership between government and academia and the private sector, which allows that the full country is able to implement proper security by spreading more and more education, so that the workforce challenges can be dealt with. So EC Council has an accreditation there for with them for the courses like CEX, Certified Ethical Hacker, CND, Certified Network Defender, CCISO, Certified Chief Information Security Officer, CHFI, Computer Hacking Forensic Investigator, and so on. Okay, so similarly, you can see ANSI, American National Standard Institute, one of the most popular institute that we have, which is again highly respected for their work. They are a private non-profit organization that deals with that how the different products, services, processes, system, and personnel will work together in a proper manner. So EC Council has a very prestigious accreditation with them also, and their courses are allowed with them. Then we have CNSS, Committee on National Security Systems. Basically, this is again a US intergovernmental organization which tries to set policy for the full US security system. So you can see it does a very, very crucial job there, and a lot of courses by them has been sent, by a lot of courses by EC Council has been given recognized position by CNSS, like Certified Ethical Hacker, CEX, CHFI, Computer Hacking Forensic Investigator, EDRP, Disaster Recovery Professional, ECSA, Certified Security Analyst, LPT, License Penetration Tester. So these all have been given equal amount of recognition by CNSS as compared to their courses. Like they have also had courses, Senior System Manager, System Administrator, and so on. So these EC Council courses have been given equivalence with them. Then we talk about Department of Veteran Affairs. So Department of Veteran Affairs is again a federal cabinet level agency that talks about healthcare services, especially for military veterans. So healthcare is again a very important field where cybersecurity plays a very important role, because health information is again a personal information of people, and cybersecurity becomes important with them. And EC Council has been honored with the accreditation from them also for courses like CEX, Certified Ethical Hacker, CHFI, Computer Hacking Forensic Investigator, ECSA, EC Council Certified Security Analyst, and so on. Then we have the United States Department of Defense. So DoD very popularly has been the source of some of the most common standards that we have internationally today. And this basically is the federal government department which takes care of coordinating and supervising all agencies and functions of the government which are directly related to the national security and the armed forces in US. So EC Council has been again honored with the courses accredited by DoD like CES, Certified Ethical Hacker, CHFI, Computer Hacking Forensic Investigation, CCISO, Certified Chief Information Security Officer, and so on. Then we have the NICEF, that is National Infocom Competency Framework, which is basically a joint effort from Infocom Media Development Authority, from Skills Future in Singapore, from Information Communication Technology Industry. and hence EC Council also have been accepted, or rather I would say EC Council programs have been accepted as an important part, as an important competency requirement in NESEP as well. So courses like CES, Certified Ethical Hacking, CHFI, Computer Hacking Forensic Investigator are all accepted in NESEP and as a part of their particular curriculum as a recommendation. Then we come to CREST. CREST is basically the Council of Registered Ethical Security Testers. It is an international, not-for-profit accreditation and certification body that is, again, very, very highly stated and considered throughout the world. It represents and supports the technical information security market internationally. And again, EC Council have had the honor to be announced as a mutual equivalency partner with CREST. And their EC Council certifications qualifies as many technical qualifications in CREST. Certifications like ECSA version 10, ECSA practical has become specifically mentioned there. And then we come to GCHQ, Government Communication Headquarters, that is again an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals intelligence and information assurance in the government and armed forces in UK. So in United Kingdom, again, we have this, and courses like CES, Certified Ethical Hacker, ECSA, EC Council Certified Security Analyst, CCISO, Certified Chief Information Security Officer, becomes one of the most sought after and dealt with course in GHQ as well. So you can see these are some of the most popular EC Council accreditations, and we continue to get more and more, accreditations. Like for example, we have with NSA, National Security Agency, as well in US, and so on. But these are like the most popular, and these accreditations simply reinforces the idea that how well these courses, these details and certification has been helpful for people all around the world, so that they can develop a good expertise and hence can find these useful, and thus can help organizations throughout the world so that they can develop cybersecurity and we can have a properly secured uh, assets all around the world. Now, I have been talking about ethical hacking and certified ethical hacking specifically. So, now what is ethical hacking? That comes the next question. So, we talk about ethical hacking basically as the practice, as the process in which we utilize all the methodologies, tools, techniques, tricks used by hackers, used by attackers, so as to identify the weaknesses in the system, the loopholes in the system, the flaws in the system, the vulnerabilities in the system, so that a right and required level of security can be provided to the assets. Hacking is done from a different perspective. When I say general hacking, it could be positive, it could be negative. But when I say ethical hacking is essentially done from a defensive purposes. That is the idea of ethics. Okay, now you'll find a hacker is generally a very, very knowledgeable person. He ideally has all kinds of information about network, about application, about systems, servers, and everything that you can think of. An ideal hacker, if I say. And in more real-time hacker, they are quite intelligent and they continue to learn. An ethical hacker also is one of the most highly intelligent person, on he who has knowledge of a lot of things, and he's continuously and regularly updating himself. And when he performs these ethical hacking methodologies, he tends to ensure that whatever results he get, he do not misuse them. He's ethical in nature as well, so he do not misuse them. Rather, he reports them to the organization so that the organization security can enhance. So you can see, again, they also talk about that it's no big secret that it can be hacked and we have to take care of these hackers. So we have different kinds of ethical hacking depending on the different fields we have. So web application hacking, one of the most common, as I discussed in the jobs also. Web application is the main interface through which external entities can interact with the organization, and hence a very common point where attacks can happen. That is why web application hacking is one of the most sought after things that we have to ensure by ethical ways, obviously, so as to ensure that we can identify these flaws beforehand and patch them up. Then similarly, we have system hacking. Every company uses a variety of systems, and those can easily be attacked internally or externally. So we have to ensure a decent level of security for them, and hence we need the ethical hacking process to be able to find the flaws there. Then web server hacking. So web server is basically the most important servers, one of the most important servers in any company. They are the one that hosts the web application, and they are the one that tells the company about all the details. So that is why making sure that we are able to find the flaws and vulnerabilities there also is extremely important to avoid any attacks there, or to at least reduce the amount of loss. Then wireless network nowadays with public Wi-Fi's and with home Wi-Fi's and company Wi-Fi's. Everywhere you go, you have wireless networks, whether it is the airport, whether it is a hotel, whether it is your home, whether it is a company. So with the increase in wireless network, there are more chances of increase in attacks also. And thus we need ethical hackers to be able to identify that what these wireless issues are, what the vulnerabilities are, what the flaws are, what the loopholes are, and accordingly be able to help with securing wireless network. And finally, social engineering. Social engineering has become more and more important field in the ethical hacking process, where we are checking for people. So people are considered to be human, is considered to be the weakest link of the security chain. Whatever issues happen, somewhere or the other, we will find human errors into it. And humans can be easily talked into giving a lot of information. Their helpful nature or trusting nature or fearful nature could be easily taken advantage for getting information and attacking the organization, which inherently refers to social engineering. And hence we need to ensure that we can test for social engineering methodology so as to check if the people are likely to give out such information, and accordingly help the organization with more awareness and by warning the individual so that they can take care of this. So these are some of the most popular fields in ethical hacking that we come across. Now I was talking about hackers. So if I go in a bit more detail and talk about the type of hackers, so we have three major types. Again, we can have different varieties and categories on different bases, but the most commonly we divide the hackers based on their intention. So we have white hat hackers, black hat hackers, and gray hat hackers. White hat hackers are basically the ethical hackers, the good guys, the security analysts of the company who are performing, who have the knowledge, who have the ethics, and who are performing all the hacking methodology with a defensive purpose in mind, with a good purpose in mind, with a constructive purpose in mind, so that they can identify the flaws and issues on time, and hence they can help the organization or at least recommend the organization for the solutions of the same. Then we have the black hat hackers. They are the bad guys, kind of the crackers, the hackers which have performing things with offensive purpose in mind. They are the one who performs all these methodologies, tips, tricks, and tools so that they can identify the loopholes and thus attack them and have their purpose solved. Purpose could be money, purpose could be revenge, purpose could be leaking of information, or any of such kind. And finally, we have the gray hat hacker. So, gray hat hacker is the one who is like a combination. He has all the knowledge and skills. He may utilize them for good purpose or for bad purpose. If a particular company hires him to attack another company, he may do that also. If a vendor hires him to secure his product, he may do that also. So, he is a gray hat hacker. So we have these major categories of hackers, and today we are trying to ensure that we increase the white hats definitely, so that we can reduce the others. Now, when I talk about how can we become to this, so there are multiple certification tracks that can be helpful for this. So let's talk about some very popular certification tracks, which can be really helpful for everyone so that they can go into this cybersecurity field, they can advance into the field of cybersecurity, gain expertise, and thus be helpful for their career and for the organizations. So here we talk about the VAPT track first, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. So here we have three levels: core, advanced, and expert. So we start with CND, Certified Network Defender, a very popular course which talks about that how networking and how security features can combine together along with systems and servers so as to provide a decent level of security. Why do we need a firewall? Why do we need an IDS IPS? How we can implement them? At what place we should do that? What defense mechanism should be put where? So all these details is discussed in this particular course. Then after this, a particular candidate can go ahead with certified ethical hacker, which is actually the offensive criteria. Once you know defensive, you need to know offensive also. Why? Because to beat a hacker you need to think like one. If you are not able to understand that how the hacker is thinking, it is very difficult to defend also. So that is why a certified ethical hacker is a very important credential which can be really useful to understand how hackers and attackers perform their job, how they can hack the systems, and hence we can protect and identify the issues with our system, and we can create a higher security level for our system. Once we have completed these core courses of Certified Ethical Hacking and CND, we can either go for CTIA first or we can directly go for ECSA. In CTIA, we have Certified Threat Intelligence Analyst, a course where it is a very important set of details about what are threats, what possible threats can harm the company, how we can keep ourselves updated and get all this information throughout, and how we can find sources through which we can keep ourselves updated and accordingly enhance the security of the organization. After this, we can go for ECSA. ECSA is EC Council Certified Security Analyst, which is again a very popular credential, which talks about proper methodology into how to perform penetration testing, what documentation is involved, what are the steps involved, what possible ways are there for different kinds of asset. It talks about all of that and combines it with amazing proper practice sessions so that it can be even more clear. Then we talk about ECSA Practical. That is another extension of ECSA that has been introduced with ECSA version 10, which talks about that how basically we can certify, we can clarify that we really have the information. So with ECSA exam, you confirm your knowledge. With ECSA Practical, you can showcase your expertise, that how well you can actually do that. So this is a totally practical exam which can be amazingly helpful to showcase your talents in the practical field. And finally, we have the expert level, that is LPT Master, that is Licensed Penetration Tester, which is actually a license that you can get as a penetration tester, with which it will be confirmed that you have immense amount of information and you have very good hands-on knowledge about how to perform things, and you have a very good expertise in performing them also. This is again a proper full-on practical exam which will tell any company that how well versed you are with security and how well you can work with it. Some of the most common job roles with this you will find, we have information assurance security officer who make sure the proper security has been implemented, the security analyst and manager, the engineer, the general security analyst, information security officers, information security auditor, risk analyst, vulnerability analyst, and so on. There are multiple certified professionals with EC Council for these courses. You'll find them in companies like Cisco, Infosys, Amazon, HP, Deloitte, and so on. So people are just trying to make sure so that even organizations wants to make sure that their company people are well versed with these, and they also send their people for these courses so as to develop the right amount of skill set. Now, apart from this, another fact that we have is cyber forensics. Cyber forensics, as I was discussing about forensics a bit earlier, forensics is an ever-growing field and has become more and more important with the increasing cyber crimes. So here we have two major levels, core and advanced, where we start with CND, Certified Network Defender, to understand the defense perspective. Then we go with CEA, Certified Ethical Hacking, to understand the offensive perspective. Then we can go with CTIA as well to understand the threats available in the market and how we can use threat intelligence in the company. Then we can go for EC Council Certified Incident Handler. EC Council Certified Incident Handler is a very popular course which helps people understand that what kind of incidents can come up in the company and how we can deal with them. These incidents, if not taken care of, can become disastrous in a future and hence has to be handled as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And this particular course and credential help you develop that expertise. And finally, we have CHFI, Computer Hacking and Forensic Investigator. That is basically where we are trying to understand what the attacker has done, how he has done, what it has affected, and accordingly trying to help the court and the company to understand that who is the person responsible. So this comes under forensic investigation. So for job roles, you can come across forensic analyst, network defense, digital forensic examiner, and so on. Again, a lot of certified people in this field have been hired into Accenture, Infosys, ICICI Bank, Bank of America, HDFC Bank, PwC, HSBC Bank, and so on. Next, if I talk about another from a defense perspective, so network defense and operations is another very popular track where we talk about, first of all, CND. Again, core, advanced, expert levels are there. So we start with CND to understand the major defense techniques. Then we go for certified SOC analyst, which will help us understand how we can support the secure and smooth functioning of the organization, which can then go with CTIA, threat intelligence analysts that we have been discussing, how we come across and the threats and how we can deal with them. Then the incident handlers that we can identify whatever issues come across, how we can respond to them. And then we can deal with disaster recovery professional also. When an issue becomes catastrophic in its impact, then how do we manage the company? How do we ensure that the company still keeps going on? And then finally, we can go for advanced network defense, where we can ensure that we have proper practice of how to harden our systems, how to provide a decent level of security to the company, and thus ensure a smooth working of the company. So this is the track from core, advanced to expert level for network defense and operations. There are multiple tracks available with EC Council. These are the three most popular ones that we have discussed. With the network defense and operation, again, you can go for multiple job roles: security administrator, engineer, defense technician, analyst, operator, network defense, cybersecurity intelligence analyst, and so on. Our various different kind of certified individuals have been working in different companies like Rockwell Automation, IBM, Ameriprise, and so on. So these three tracks have been one of the most successful and useful tracks that we come across, where people are able to upgrade themselves and they are able to understand that how cybersecurity can be implemented and can be provided for usefulness for their company. Now, going ahead, let's talk about some of these courses in a bit more detail, some of the most useful courses, especially as a beginner. So we start with ECSS, EC Council Certified Security Specialist, which is basically a course which helps the beginners, helps entry level people in security to understand the fundamental concepts of different fields like forensics and defense and hacking even. So this particular course has been designed with major details, major outlines of almost every field of cybersecurity put together, so that we can understand that what is cybersecurity, what are the major terminologies, and accordingly helps us to ensure that we have some information about every field. This is about the best practices, about the common understanding of network security, information security, computer forensic process, and helps us develop a skill as a security specialist. It's Gauss, you can see the course outline here. It has multiple modules involved into it. The exam is also not too long, 2 hours, 50 questions. It's a ECC exam portal, multiple choice questions. There is a proctor based online option also available. So with issues like corona, etc., or even for your own purpose, you can get these exam. You can do this exam from your home as well, considering proper details are done. Then we have ECIH, EC Council Incident Handler. So here we talk about, as we talk about that incident handler is a very crucial and important aspect in any organization, and hence ECIH is a very, very useful course. This gives you the skills to be able to handle and respond to the incident, to be able to understand that what is the root cause and to be able to provide a solution for that. What are the principles, processes, and technologies so that we can deal with the threats? What are the legal issues, if there any? What kind of cover we can provide for different kinds of incidents? All of this particular course can help you with. Here we talk about risk also, that how incidents can cause a high amount of risk and how we can handle them. So it relates to forensic and risk both in here. Again, 50 questions, 2 hours, multiple choice exam that can be provided from EC Council. Then we have Certified Network Defender. So here you can see CND is again a very important and popular course which talks about defense that covers the most common security domains. So here we talk about that what is the protection detection techniques we can have, what are the fundamentals of the network defense, so what are the controls, VPN, firewall, IDS, and so on, intricacies of the traffic signatures, network traffic, vulnerability scanning, and so on. So all that can be discussed. Here we discuss all of them in a decent detail along with a lot of practice mechanisms. So here it's a 4 hours exam, 100 questions and multiple choice. And accordingly, it could be really, really helpful to develop your skills as a defense person. Then we go for certified ethical hacking, one of the most sought after, toply rated, highest access popular course, which actually covers all the major details of how hacking can be done by different attackers in different assets. In its comprehensive 20 module setup and content, it talks about almost every part, every kind of attack that we generally come across. It talks about with introduction of ethical hacking, what are the different pathways the attacker can take, how we can attack cloud, mobile, IoT, web applications, servers, and so on, and thus be able to understand the attackers' methodology, and hence secure ourselves. So it's a 125 question, 4 hours exam, and is one of the most popular and most recommended courses for you for developing the right skills. It comes up with a lot of practical information as well and gives you a good amount of lab access so that you can actually practice them as well. Then we have Certified Ethical Hacker Practical, which is another exam that can be combined with the previous exam, which can ensure and showcase your practical skills, that how well you are able to perform those things also. So this exam has 20 challenges for 6 hours. We have our own iLab cyber range. I'll show you that also later on, where you can perform this. You can practice them also beforehand. You can get the iLabs also practice, and later on with the exam, you can perform the challenges there, and you can come across and you can have the one of again the most sort of a credential of CEH here. Then we have CHFI, Computer Hacking and Forensic Investigator, which is again a very comprehensive course. In its modules, it talks about what is forensic investigation, what are the information he needs to have, how we can perform forensics on network, operating system, database, cloud, malware, and so on. So it gives you very comprehensive information from almost every kind of assets. Again, 150 questions, 4 hours, a very, very sought after and recommended course. Then we have ECSA, EC Council Security Analyst. That is a slightly advanced level course, but again a very popular one. ECSA is a globally accepted course for a thorough, confirmation of your practical skills and your knowledge. It talks about penetration testing, the important methodology steps, the particular engagement method, the intelligence, how we can gather open source intelligence, how we can perform pen testing in different ways, like on network, on web application, on database, on cloud, and so on. So here again we have 150 questions, 4 hours here, and it's a very, very highly recommended course for anybody who needs to go further, not just the beginner level, to go further into the next level and show out his high skills and expertise in this particular field. And we have ECSA practical also, just like we have CEH and CH practical. ECSA practical is an add-on exam that you can give with normal ECSA, where we have around 8 challenges, 12 hours to perform them. And here, if you are able to perform 5 out of them, that is very good for showcasing your ability to perform proper research and exploits, to be able to attack, to be able to understand the vulnerabilities, and your eligibility as a professional pen tester has been verified with this. So again, a very, very sought after and very, very highly honored course by different organizations and recommended as well. Now, with all of these, we generally do provide, especially with like ECSA, and so we provide them with the course, and you can, for other courses, you can request for iLabs as well. So we have the iLabs virtual platform. That's an amazing platform that we provide, which has everything already into it. It's online, accessible through the cloud. You can just log in, your iLab account and you can access. So there, we can just create an iLab account. We'll help you with that and the courses, and then you can create that and you can get access to this full iLabs range where we have all the machines already built in, all the tools already saved there. Everything is built in. We have instructions also available there, and you can simply follow and practice them and try to understand things with your own time by taking your own time into it, and you can practice them to the full. So you can see here they have got a screenshot for CEH. Here we have the major machines that generally CEH requires, and you don't need to install anything. You just simply log in and you have it. So let me show you an example of this so that you can understand how we can very useful way of practicing, how iLabs is a very useful way of practicing. So let me show you a small example of that. So, okay, you can see this is it. So I'll first show you the lab range. Okay, just a second. Yeah. So you can see this is my EC Council iLab portal. So if you want to open it once you get access, so you don't have to do anything. You can simply put iLabs EC Council. Even if you don't need to remember, you don't need to remember any URLs also. Simply put iLabs EC Council and you get here. So you go to this page and you can see this is how it looks like. It's EC Council specific. The full iLabs is here. For almost every course EC Council provides, we have these iLabs available here. So you can access them once you have them access to them, and you can put on an account here. So here we have the cyber range. You need to log into iLabs for that. Once you have logged in, like in my case, I've already logged in, so I am into here. So this is certified ethical hacker. So you can see here we have all the major modules from CEH. They have shown the flow, right? So these all different modules are there. So you don't have to worry about which thing comes there. So everything is there. What you just need to do is open the one that you're looking for. Okay. For example, suppose I look for the first one. Just click on it, you get the information of that, and you click on launch. Right now, I'm not doing that because I already have a lab running here. So once you click on launch, you get something like this. See, this is how it looks like. So this is your lab. Now you can see here we have all the resources available. Server 16 is what is open right now. Server 12, Windows 10, Windows 8, Kali Linux, Ubuntu, Android. You don't need to install anything. Everything is ready here for your access. If you want, you can change the look and feel of the particular interface also. You can look, if you want to change to another machine, you can simply click on it and you have that machine loaded. You can do the same from here also. Again, you can simply click on it and have the machine loaded. Okay, here we have all the different options. So if you want to press Control or Delete, you can choose from key combinations, powering on machines, reverting them. Virtual keyboard is even available. Here you have a full screen. You can change the screen size as per your requirements. You can do that. Okay, then here we have the options where you can save the labs. So you can save two labs, nowadays five labs for around a week, for 7 days generally. Okay, or you can end the lab. A split windows means this instruction part and machine part will be separate and this machine part will be separate. So you can do that also. Okay, all the instructions for each module with the objective, with the scenario are available for proper understanding of things. While performing the instructions, you'll be able to gather and grasp the concept even better, and thus you can develop yourself. For example, let me show you an example of password cracking. So here you can see the full information is given that how we are going to use tools like PWDump7 and OPH Crack. These are two very popular password cracking tools. How we can utilize them to crack passwords with the help of SAM file. SAM file is Security Accounts Manager file, which is a major important file present in our Windows system, which stores our usernames and passwords. So we are going to extract pwdum7. We are going to use pwdum7 to extract the SAM file, and then we are going to use ophgraph to identify the passwords. So let me show you the example with this. So you can see I've simply opened Windows 10. Now I need to press Control or Delete. I can do from here also, or I can simply click in the instructions also. It will perform. Okay, so you can see my lab is here. Now I can go ahead. I need to put the password. So password is available here. I can type it. I can type it from here also, right? Or I can simply click on it and put this. So it will type in there, and then I can just press enter. It just makes it easier to work with. So you can see the machine is already ready for me. I can just make sure that I open the things. So let's start with the practical. So I'm going to show you a simple example of password cracking. So here, let's open CMD, and I need to run it as administrator. So let's run it. Okay, so first of all, I'm trying to identify the different usernames. So I'm going to use the functionality of WMIC, right? So we have user account, right? Then get name, and I want to need the IDs also of the users, and press enter. So you can see I've got the names and IDs. Now I knew the command. You can see from here also, you can see it is written here. So you don't have to worry about remembering initially. This will be great. By the time when you practice, you will automatically get to remember them. So you can see here they have given all. And as you perform a command, you can just click on this to show. See, it is telling me you have not clicked on all of them. So I'm saying, okay, I'm done till here. So to show that you have done this much task, so you can see 1% task is complete. So it tells you how much progress you have made throughout also. So you can see like I have got this. This is the same is shown in screenshot also. So if you're not able to understand how the particular thing should come up, you can check with the screenshot. You can see mine is looking just like my screenshot. That means I am going right. So this way you can do it in your own pace also. You can practice again and again, and you can find this very useful. Now I have this. Now I'm going to use the pwdum7 tool. So we need to take it. So all the tools by default are in server 2016, and that tool folder is shared among all the others. So I can simply access it from here. So I need to copy that tool in this machine. So I am going towards that particular machine, and here we have password cracking tools, and let's find pwdum7 is here. Okay, so now I simply copy it to the desktop. Okay, so let's see now, right? So you can see pwdum7 is here. Now I have copied, so I can press this also. Again, it keeps checking my progress, right? So it has shown screenshots for that also. I have already done that, so I can simply put it. Now I can just go to the command prompt window, and pwdum7 is used to the command prompt. So that is why they're asking me to change the particular directory, so I can use that. So let's do that. CD. So let's go with it. Right. So I'm going to shift to the desktop. Yes. So we have this. I'm going step by step. You can go directly also, right? As you like. And now that we have here, now I can implement that. So pwdum is the major file there, exe file. Now when I execute this file, you will see the SAM file. This is the SAM file of the system. You can see what the username is there and the user ID. Then there are LM and NTLM hashes. So where there is no password, it is showing no password. Where there is a password, it is showing the hash value of the passwords. Okay, these are like the encoded format, you can say in general. So here I have this. If I want to save it, I can save it also. So let's say I save it in hashes.txt file. Okay, since I'm not providing any path, so by default it will be stored in the same folder. So you can see here, if I show you, you can see hashes.txt. If I open this, you can see these details here. Now you can see in this particular case, it doesn't happen always, but in this particular case, some usernames are missing. Now that is why we did the WMIC command. So we can simply make sure those usernames are written properly. So we can just go above here and you can see these usernames. So I can provide and put them. Okay, so okay, let's put this above and this below. Okay, so you can see for 503 we have default account. So let me put default account here. Default account, right? Then we have for 504 we have WDH utility account. So let's put that also here. So you can see I put on that also. Then for 1003 we have Jason. So let's put Jason also. And for 1004 we have Sheila. So let's put Sheila. So you can see we have got these. Now I can save this file and I am done with it. Okay, so this way I have used PWM7 to crack this. Same they are showing now here. You can edit it also accordingly. Now we are going to use OPH crack. So let's do that. So let's minimize this and let's go to the folder. Here in password cracking tools, we have OPH crack also. Now we have the file with that particular case, the PWM7. So we can simply execute this. This is a direct software, which you can have it here. So here it is, OPH crack. You can see. Now here I can simply load the file. Okay, there's an option of PWM file. So I can simply load the file here. So I have it in desktop and in PWM7 folder, hashes.txt, and you can see it is loaded. Those which do not have a password is showed as empty. Now I can put on a table here so that we can try some option. There is an already stored one. I'm going to use that one. Okay, install. So I have one in E drive in here in password cracking tools in OPH crack. You can see here we have table vista free. This Intuit has 4 tables. So I'm going to choose the full folder and it is there. Now I can click on OK. Now it's done. So I can simply click on crack. So it will take a few minutes and it will crack all of them one by one. You can see the 4 tables running here. See, 4 tables are here. So you can see one, it has already cracked. Test. The more simpler your password is, the more quickly it will crack. As the password becomes more complex, it takes more time to crack. You can see QWERTY was, this was 4 characters, this was 6 characters. So it takes slightly more time, but it was able to crack it. Similarly, it will take some more time, it will crack the others also. Okay. So this is how we can perform password cracking. So all these cracked passwords will be shown. It will take some time, but it will be shown. So for now, we have already seen 2. So right now, let's just stop this. Okay, so I'm going to stop this, but this is the way you have to just give it some more time and it will show the others also. So this is how we can crack passwords, right? Similarly, if I show you another example, this was a small example of cracking passwords. So let me close this one. Let me show you another example from another lab. So for now, I'm just ending this. Okay, so let me show you. So let's go for session hijacking. Let's take an example of that. This is more of an application based kind of or a network based kind of an attack. So let's launch it. See, it's not running right now. So I'm launching it. So it will load my lab content in a few seconds. So there are a lot of machines, so it needs a few seconds. But once it is there, we're all set. You're ready. So this way you can see how it is very much easier to access the iLabs. You can simply go there and access and use it. Okay, so it becomes very easier to not create a lab, and you can simply access them. The instructions are also available to guide you if you need it. And this way you can make it very much more useful, but at the same time it can help you understand that how these attacks can happen and how company environments across, because the particular environment that is in the iLabs is trying to mimic an actual company environment. So you can understand from a real company perspective that how these things work. So you can see it's almost loaded, just a few more seconds, and I'll show you another example of session hijacking. That's again a very common attack that we have. So let's have a look. And it is starting. So you can see it is ready now. So this is my session hijacking detail. You can see it talks about the objectives, the reason, what is the scenario, tells you everything. And then here we have the exercise. So here you can see ZerAttack proxy is a very, very popular tool given by OWASP. OWASP is a company who deals with application security a lot. So here again, they're recommending us to use Windows 10. Generally, you can use any machine. Here we're just going with the recommendation because certain things are done in certain way in an organization, and it is mimicking an organization point of view. So just like earlier, we can press here, it will do Control or Delete. You can see now we'll get the username password. So we'll put on the password. So here we come across. Okay, so here we have the password being put on. Yes, so I'll just put on the password and I'll just press enter. So I go ahead. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to change some settings on my browser first. So this is actually why what we call as victim machine. That means this is the place where the attack is going to happen. So this is my Google Chrome that I have opened right now. Now I'm going to change some proxy settings here. So let me do that. So we go to settings, and here let me open proxy settings. So here we have the proxy settings. Okay, we go to the LAN settings, and here we can use proxy server. Okay, so I'm going to use the server 2016. I think that will be recommended by the lab also, and the default port generally is 8080, so that is a good way to use. So you can see here also, let's cross verify that the attacker machine is that. Yes, you can see 10.10.16. So we can use that, and we can go with 8080. Let's click on OK, and OK. So now I am set. My proxy has been set in here. Now I can go to server 16 and start the tool. Okay, so let's press Control or Delete here. Okay, and here we can put on the password to the administrator user. Okay, so here we can put it, and I click on this T icon to type it, and then I press enter. So now we'll have the machine ready. Now OWASP app is already installed here. I can simply click on it. The install phase is just standard, just like we do normally. So it will open up. So it is starting up the tool now. OWASP app, I told you, it is from Open Web Application Security Project. That's a very famous company which does a lot of research in web applications. And here we go. So I do not want to persist the session at the moment. Let's start. Okay, so it talks about that. Now you can see it is ready. Now I'm going to put on the break tab here. So break tab means whatever request goes via the proxy. Proxy is server 16. So whatever goes, I want to see those. It will break in here. It will show me the request. Okay. So now I'm going to put on details. So let's go to options in tools. So you can see option window is here. Now here we need to put the address in here. So let's go for local proxy. So local proxy is here, and here I need to put the IP address, the same I put last time in 10. So I'm putting it. So I have put on the proxy address, port number is good. I can click on OK. Okay, so now my proxy is all set. The configuration if not same, that will cause issues. So my proxy is all set. Now I can put on and start the checking of the signals. You can see automatically it is able to get it. Okay, so let's go there. I want to start it first so we can do it easily. So let's open Chrome here. Okay, so here we have. Now I need to put on a new website name here so that I can access it. But before that, I'll be starting on the idea that you do break it. So this is a button which when I click on, it will set break on all requests and responses. So I'm clicking on, now it is red. That means it is breaking. Now I can go to Windows 10 and access a website. So here I'm going to take from the particular setup, that is moviescope.com. Okay, so I am clicking on moviescope.com, and now what I'm going to do is I'm supposed to get moviescope.com, but what I'm going to go do is I'm going to switch here so that though he is looking for moviescope.com, but he will get goodshopping.com. So you will see here, this one is not for that. This is a button called as submit and step to the next request. So I'm going to do that. This is also not for that. Let's go further. This is also not for that. So whatever request regarding that particular site comes in, I'm going to make changes there. Okay, so I have to look for C. Now we have got that request. Now I'm going to change here from movie scope to good shopping. I'm the attacker right now. So 2000 server 2016 is the attacker, and it is going to change the site. So you can see here it is, I've changed it. Now I'm allowing it to be submitted. Okay, so it gets the response. I've allowed that also. Okay, this is update. This is also update. Okay, we have to check for any other requests that might be regarding that website. So let's see. You can see these are all different ones for Windows Update that is happening automatically. So it is checking for all requests. Let's see if we have more requests for Movie Scope. Okay. Oh, my mistake. I put it again. I allowed the Movie Scope one. Let's go there. You can see good shopping was appearing, right? So if I stop this and send again, let's see again, and here again we'll get the request. So let's go ahead. Now I'm going to put movie scope, and instead I'm going to put good shopping, and Here I'm going to allow that. You can see again I'm going to put good shopping. Here I'm going to allow that. And then I'm going to go further and further, and again I'm going to just a second. And here also I put on, and I can go further. West. And let's see, here also we got the next one, and again we have another request. So let's put this also on. So here we go further, we got the response, again another request. So I'll have to do for all these requests, and I just want to show you after this one how that website is accessing good shopping. Okay, so here we've got it. Now you're going to see Windows 10, and you can see it is accessing good shopping. Now when I go for all requests, every website has a lot of paths with multiple requests. When I answer all of them with good shopping, it is going to access only good shopping and show you that. So this way what I have done, I have taken over somebody's session. Somebody was trying to access moviescope.com, but I have forced the person to access goodshopping.com. Similarly, the attacker can make fake pages and make you access that also. This is another very common example of session hijacking attack. A very, very common issue that happens in a lot of websites and a lot of systems as well. So this was small examples I showed you for different ones. Right now I'm going to end it. Okay. So just to show you. So you can see here we have so many different options that you can try, so many exercises you can practice, which could really enhance the understanding. So this was about the labs, how iLabs look like and how they can be very, very useful. And you can see now, with this, we come to the end of the webinar. Now we can see how EC Council, in alignment with Charuset, provides all these. Charuset has tied up with EC Council and are encouraging. They understand also that how this could be very useful for everyone, and they are encouraging these courses as well. So, any questions, anybody? If yes, please go ahead, and I'm here happy to help you out.